So hi everyone, welcome ones and all. It's really a pleasure to have all of you here to join us today for this 3i Accelerator Demo Day. I think the companies that we're showcasing today are extremely excited to share the technologies that they have. Many of these are extremely young companies, and for them this might be their first accelerator. So we really hope that you will show them some support, ask them the right questions, as well as really prepare to challenge them a little bit if you need to as well. Okay, so before we begin, just some tips, some Zoom webinar pro tips. One of the easiest ways to enjoy the webinar really is to set your view to side-by-side mode. This will allow you to have a view of both the speakers as well as our panelists. And on top of that, there's a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. So it'd be good if you could click on the Q&A tab. This will also allow you to type in the questions that you have for some of our startups. All right. So thank you for joining us. And really, what we want to do now is we would like to invite Dr. Nidza Kadish to come and give us her opening speech. Dr. Nidza is the CEO of the Trendlines Agrifood Fund. She's also the Vice Chair of the Innovation Center. Nidza Kadish is really widely regarded as a trailblazer in Israel's agri-tech investment community. She's really well known for bringing together the industry, the businesses, government officials, and academia to discuss the trends, issues, and different solutions for the future of agriculture and agri-food tech. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Nidza to give your welcome speech, please.
Thank you, Keith. In another moment, I would believe everything you said. So I'm very excited to be here in our great offices in Singapore. Unfortunately, we can't meet face-to-face, and it is still a virtual meeting. But let's pray for better days when we are gathering here in these wonderful facilities. So a very good day to all of our attendees, and cheers to the startups that are presenting today. Welcome to the demo day of the second cohort of Trendlines 3i Accelerator program. This program is an integral part of Trendlines' commitment in contributing to development of agri-food tech startups ecosystem in Singapore. We truly believe that being an entrepreneur, and we know that from our personal experience, is not an easy journey, but it can be very rewarding, and it can bring, and this is very important, a positive impact on the world. And for that, I would like to applaud the entrepreneurs who are here with us today for their resilience in believing their ideas and struggling every day for the ideas to materialize. So as Kit mentioned, I'm the Vice Chair of Trendlines Agrifood Innovation Center, in short AFIC, or as we said in Hebrew, AFIC. And it is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trendlines Group. AFIC is an incubator and manager of the Trendlines Agrifood Fund, which invests in exciting agri-food tech startups from early stage to later stage. Tapping on our group experience as the most active early stage agri-food investor in Israel, we would like to identify, support, and develop Singapore startups to be global players across the value chain of agri-food sector. To achieve this goal, we believe it is crucial to advocate partnerships. Actually, this is the basic business model of the Trendlines Group. We like to partners. We are thankful to have the opportunity to work with partners such as Enterprise Singapore and A-Star, as well as our global network of industry and investors partners. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. I believe it is also takes an ecosystem to build a successful startup. And on that note, please allow me to invite Eugene To, Director of Agri-Tech from Enterprise Singapore, to give a speech. And I would like to wish all of us a very successful session and good luck to all of you. Thank you very much.
Hi, Eugene.
Hi.
So we'd like
Morning.
to invite Eugene to give his speech. Eugene To is really the director of the Agritech division and the global markets director for Northeast Asia and Oceania and Enterprise Singapore. The Agtech division works closely with agricultural startups and in Singapore to help build capabilities, innovate, and internationalize many of these companies. A lot of the companies on our Accelerator program have benefited from working closely with ESG. So I'd like to invite Eugene to give your opening address.
Thank you, Keith and Nitza. Hi, everyone. My name is Eugene. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm the director of the Agritech division at Enterprise Singapore. It's my pleasure to be speaking here at the demo day of the Trendlines Agri-Food Innovation Center's 3I Accelerator program. Enterprise Singapore is the government agency responsible for helping Singapore enterprises grow, glow, and globalize. We work with committed companies to build capabilities, innovate, and internationalize. In her book, Insight Out, INSIGHT, Stanford professor Tina Silek gives a distinction between each of these processes: imagination, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We tend to mix these terms together and use them interchangeably, especially for the layperson. But there's actually a distinction. What is imagination? It is the ability to think of something that doesn't exist. Creativity is then applying imagination to a specific problem statement or a challenge. Innovation is the application of the creative process to be able to generate different unique solutions. And finally, entrepreneurship is the process of bringing the innovative solutions to fruition and hopefully sparking other people's imagination. Let me give you an example. When we talk about alternative proteins, we can imagine a world where food or meat doesn't need to come from animals. And then we put in the creative process of asking ourselves, where can that come from? Maybe it's from plants, or maybe it's cell culture. And then we innovate to see whether we can come up with good solutions, test and try different formulas to get the recipes we need. And then finally, we have the entrepreneurship process of bringing the meat to the market. And I'm happy to be here today because this is what we call the invention cycle. I think through the startups, which we'll hear through their pitches later, there is that process where many of the founders have gone through the creative, innovative, and finally the entrepreneurship process to bring many of their very good ideas to the market. Singapore has laid down an aspirational 30 by 30 goal to produce 30% of our nutritional needs locally by 2030. The COVID pandemic has accentuated the need for Singapore to rely on levers such as technology and innovation to achieve breakthroughs. Agri-food technology presents economic growth opportunities for startups to transform traditional sectors, which is why Singapore is investing heavily in emerging technologies such as alternative proteins, high-tech urban agriculture and aquaculture, as well as food waste valorization, so that we can strengthen our national food system. While we are not a traditional agricultural society, our strong innovation climate, talent base, reputation for food safety, and strategic location makes us a conducive place for these technologies to take root. Singapore offers a vibrant ecosystem with extensive resources and infrastructure to catalyze deep tech innovation. And we're always looking for ways where we can nurture top talent to help our fast-growing businesses and startups scale. Our cross-border collaborations with countries also drive innovation, investment, and internationalization. Today, we are starting to see the fruits of our labor. Within the span of 2 years working with our global accelerator partners, such as Trendlines, AFIC, we have supported more than 100 startups that have contributed to our local food production efforts, as well as addressing regional agri-food problem statements. As Nidza pointed out earlier, the ecosystem is key. Our ecosystem has seen growing investor interest and opportunities. According to the Ag Funder Investment Report, in 2020, $195 million was invested into Singapore agri-food tech startups across 41 deals, which is the highest in Southeast Asia. We have seen the birth of homegrown startups such as Insecta, which is the first urban insect farm in Singapore that transforms waste into high-value biomaterials through black soldier flies. We see SingGrow, a precision agri-tech solutions company, where recently we had the pleasure of trying their freshly harvested sweet ruby strawberries. Eating locally grown strawberries would not have been conceivable just a decade ago, but we managed to do it. And these successes were made possible with the support of key partners, such as Trendlines. The partnership between ESG and Trendlines continues to help champion early-stage agri-food tech companies and drive ecosystem efforts. ESG is excited to partner Trendlines to organize Deal Friday in July later this year to help startups, investors, and corporates maximize success in forging and co-creating investment deals. We're also heartened to have been part of the Aquaculture Innovation Webinar organized by IPI Singapore in partnership with Trendlines, AIC, as well as Innovation Norway. The webinar provides a platform for the exchange of ideas, practices, and foster collaboration to meet rising global demands. To the graduating startups today, as Enterprise Singapore continues to strengthen the agri-food ecosystem, I hope you'll continue to use the resources that we're provided and grow with us. Tap on Singapore's strong research and development capabilities and innovate alongside world-class R&D institutions such as A-Star, Temasek Life Sciences Labs, and our local universities. For companies looking to foster cross-border innovation, Enterprise Singapore has existing bilateral and multilateral partnerships to promote and facilitate support for R&D and innovation projects. Examples include the Singapore-Israel Industrial R&D Foundation, or CERT program, and Eureka. Also, do join recognized platforms to boost your entrepreneurial journey, such as ESG's organized Switch and Slingshot events. We look forward to our continued partnership with Trendlines and everyone present here today. Our efforts in building a strong, innovative ecosystem in agri-food tech will not only contribute to Singapore's food resilience efforts, but also strengthen our global competitiveness as our Singapore-based startups look to scale and succeed beyond our shore. In closing, my heartiest congratulations to the Trendline team, as well as the graduating cohort of startups for completing 12 weeks of expert mentoring, pitch evaluations, and developing scalable ideas. I would like to reiterate the 3 core principles. First, ideate. Whatever you're thinking, think bigger. Secondly, inoculate. Find the right growth environment to create and inspire. And finally, ignite. Let the world see your fire. It's no easy feat to run and participate in an accelerator program, especially in our present conditions during the pandemic. But Trendlines and the startups have done well. I look forward to hearing your pitches And thank you for the invitation.
Thanks, Eugene. Thank you so much for really introducing the core principles of what the 3i Accelerator is all about. These 3 core principles are not just principles that we created for the companies. It actually really fits right into the timetable of how the companies have experienced some of the workshops. So for those of you out there who are interested in how we run our workshops, let me just give you a quick overview of what actually happens. The Accelerator program, like Eugene mentioned, is 3 months long. And each month is broken down into one of the core principles. In March this year, we started the ideate phase, where we talked about brand storytelling and your problem and product fit. How well does your solution actually solve the problems that are available? The second month, we look at inoculate. Inoculate here might not be the best choice of words in a pandemic, but it really has the same connotation. You want to give startups the right growth media, the right environment in which they can expand and grow quickly. So what happens during the inoculate phase is really, we introduce you to the mentors, we help you go to market, we build your business model, we develop sales models for you, and we introduce you to some of the partners that we have. During this phase, it's really about startup-led development. So the startup comes and tell us what exactly they need help with, and Trendlines will provide the help accordingly. We'll give you the right people to speak to. And lastly, in May, that's when we focus on the pitch, because it's no use, developing a company if nobody knows what your company is really talking about. So this all culminates up into what we have today, which is the demo day. And we're really, really excited to be able to introduce all these companies to you. But before I move on, I'd like to introduce to you 2 partners that we worked very closely with during this entire process. The first company is called Socialize. Socialize is Singapore's first and only story brand certified digital strategy company. So if any of you are looking for someone to help you with your story branding, with your marketing, with some of your branding content, or even your content marketing, please reach out to Joel. Joel is the chief storyteller of Socialize. Secondly, we'd like to introduce Collabs. Collabs was not only a partner during the program, they were also one of the companies that we accelerated. So this is a very interesting relationship that we have developed with Collabs, because besides being a participant in our accelerator, they also provided a lot of services to some of our startups. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Junjie. Junjie is from Collabs, and he'll introduce you. He'll let you know what Collabs does.
Hi everyone, can you all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Keith, for having me here and for the kind introduction. So hi everyone, my name is JJ, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Collab. To all Agrifood companies here, a quick show of hands. You guys can just use the raise hand function on Zoom. Has anyone here sent your sample for lab test before? Okay, I may not be able to see it. All right, I'll just assume that no one has. So since there's no one who have done lab tests, can you guys guess how long would it take to source for a lab test? You guys can just type in the chat box. Two days, 2 weeks. All right. Okay, all these are good answers. So through my time as a research associate in insect feed technologies, and after interviewing many other companies in the agri-food space, what I found out is that it typically takes about a week or 2 just to source for one simple lab test. And I've experienced the pain firsthand of sending many emails back and forth to multiple lab testers just because their results, processes, and requirements are not the same. So to paint a clearer picture about what I'm talking about, let's dive into the process of sourcing for a lab test the traditional way. Imagine rolling out your new product and you want to know the nutritional composition of your food. So you Google for nutritional analysis. You then have to contact individual lab tester, wait for them to respond, compare and evaluate their responses, mainly in terms of price, speed, or other factors. And then you have to clarify on other information such as the minimum mass of sample required. Sometimes the sample that you have may not be enough for the test to be accurate. The suitability of your sample matrix. Let's say your sample is in the paste form, but they require it to be in a powder or grounded form, or even in the liquid state. And you might need to ask questions as how the sample needs to be delivered. So would they be going to you, or do you go to them? And what other extra charges will that incur? And so on. And finally, you are done. These steps are extremely labor intensive and time consuming. And what's worse is the fact that you might not even get the best bang for your buck, because the lab tester that you have contacted might not be the cheapest. And that's when we come in, CoLab. With our database of lab partners, you can easily find the cheapest lab test within a day. Next slide. Okay, next slide. So as we are getting a discounted price from our lab partners, next, you can save up to 40% if you go through us than if you were to randomly search for a lab tester yourself. So how we got 40% is by taking the difference between the cheapest lab partner in our database compared to the average price of all other lab testers in Singapore. And right now, you might be wondering, why is there a huge disparity between the cost offered from each lab testers for the exact same test? So a fun fact is that every lab testers have their own niche and specialty. So some can perform a simple lab test much more efficiently than others. And some of them may be also using a different method. And we are very familiar with their requirements and processes. So we're able to reduce the whole licensing process down to a single day. To make things better, our partners are also SFA accredited, so you can get your necessary certifications as well. Next. Next. Currently, we are focusing on agri-food companies, like some of you here, and I'll just touch on a bit why some of these tests are especially useful for the alternative protein sector. So previously, where I'm from, amino acid profiling was done by InsectFit Technologies. This is because they wish to find out the black soldier fly, the amount of amino acid inside the black soldier fly larvae. And this is especially important because some of these amino acids are essential. So we have proximate analysis, which was requested by Microvision, a fermentation-based company who will be presenting later. And this is also useful for them to quantify the amount of macronutrients in their product. We have Shanti Global, who's doing vegan meat, and one of their USP is the high bioavailability of their meat. And how are they able to ensure this? Is by checking on the protein digestibility score using PDCAS. Next slide. So if you guys are currently looking to test your product, you can request for a lab test by scanning the QR code in the middle for our website. And if you're not, but wish to find out more about the lab test that we are providing, you can also check our website as we provide greater detail about each test. Things like test results, methodology, their purpose, lead time, and so on. Alternatively, you can contact me directly through my Telegram or email if you have any questions. And for those of you who find this interesting but may not need our service right now, you should also follow us on our LinkedIn, because what we are providing right now is just the beginning. And we'll be adding more services that specifically cater to the food tech space. And if you are aspiring scientists or new businesses or new business owner with an interest in this space, follow us on our LinkedIn as well. Once again, we are CoLab, and it's time for you to test your product through our lab partners before your customers. Thank you.
Thank you, JJ. So for those of you who are interested, in the Q&A section, you'll find CoLab's website as well as their LinkedIn. That would be the best way for you to connect with them. All right? All right, thanks, JJ. Okay, next, we've come to the main event. Today, what's going to happen is that there are 6 companies that will be presenting their startups and their startup pitches. But we also have a panel ready for you. You've met 2 of our panelists, Dr. Nitza as well as Eugene. I'd like to introduce our 3rd panelist. Our 3rd panelist now is AJ Tung. He's from Wavemaker Partners. Wavemaker Partners is an early stage venture capital fund. It was founded in 2003. and is dual headquartered in Los Angeles and Singapore. They have over $200 million in assets under management and have invested in over 200 different portfolio companies. Ajay has led many different deals within the agri-food industry, including one of my favorite companies actually, eFishery. So I'm excited to hear more from them today. Can I invite Eugene and Niza to also, all right, your videos are on, that's great. Okay, so without further ado, I'll introduce the first company. I'd like to invite David from Aggregate to introduce his company, please.
Hey, good day, everyone. And this is David. Most of you will know me as a rice guy from Golden Sunland. I still am, and the Little Rice Company is still alive and kicking. But today we have something very different, something very exciting to bring to everyone, and this is made possible by the 3i Accelerator at Trendlines. So I would like to formally introduce Aggregate. It is a dedicated credit rating system for smallholder farmers. It allows lenders to efficiently assess and appraise the borrowers with the added benefit of being assured of the loan performance. Aggregate is the brainchild of Golden Sunland and the summation of 5 years of our work. Now, just to take a look at the overall problem. Next slide, please. There are about 475 million smallholder farmers producing 70% of our global food supply. While short-term financial requirements are estimated at $99 billion annually, only about $33 billion, largely funded by development banks and agencies, are available in the market right now. So in spite of the gap, banks are reluctant to do businesses with smallholder farmers due to, firstly, the lack of access, the inability to properly appraise, and basically no visibility to the farmer's operation, therefore very little assurance on the loan performance. And as a result, banks would not know how to price loans to smallholder farmers. The ability to accurately measure smallholder farmers' risk is therefore crucial to assess that $66 billion market. And this is the solution Aggregate hopes to be, the S&Ps and Moody's for smallholder farmers and lenders. Now, I would like to run through this short video to give you an overview of how this will actually work.
Aggregate is an integrated solution designed to access, appraise, and assure, thus freeing billions of untapped opportunities in smallholder agriculture financing. Here's how we'll make that happen. Farmers onboarded will be incentivized to provide information that constitute basic Know Your Client, KYC, generating a sustainability score. This forms the appraisal stage. Farmers then proceed to apply for loans, providing further information into the database. At this point, the access stage, typically lasting a borrower's lifetime, and appraisal stage, according to seasonal harvest, are completed. Using our proprietary AI model, the platform will generate an initial score, which is the final assure stage. Aggregate is now ready to assign a baseline interest rate and recommended quantum based on the access and appraisal stage. It will factor in either a discount or penalty factor based on the assure stage. Financial institutions now gain access to appraised borrowers. FIs can therefore connect with appraised borrowers whom they were not incentivized or equipped to approach before, and now lend with assurance that the farmer's activities are monitored and advised upon. To access such data, Aggregate charges 1% of the total loan quantum.
So apologies for the very robotic voice. That was a very quick rush up over the weekend. But essentially, this is the solution overview. And throughout the season, the AI power platform will continuously increase the accuracy of the predictive agriculture module that will help the farmers make better decisions in the field and also improve their ability to service their loans. And in addition to this, the exclusive marketplace where the borrowers will purchase products and services adds an additional layer of assurance that the loan is spent on the right purpose. Next slide, please. So while the first two components, access and appraise, are rather conventional smallholder loan assessment methods, Aggregate accentuates existing credit rating system by incorporating a sustainability index into its appraisal score, by adding insights to farmers' profitability, environmental and social impact. And the last assurance score is derived through a predictive agriculture module and a specific mechanism to measure the farmer's behavior. So as you can see on the x-axis, the assess and appraise part of the credit rating system will form the foundation of the baseline interest rate. And the assurance part, which is the y-axis in green, will indicate the discount or the penalty factor. So just imagine, just look at the black color triangle. Imagine that as a farmer with a strong foundation and history, they might get a lower baseline rate, but because of inability to do a proper planning for next season, he or she may then suffer a penalty because of that. On the other hand, a hardworking farmer who may not be so well off may start with a higher lending rate and subsequently enjoy a discount simply because there's more willingness to invest and more willingness to follow advisory. So in this space, there are competitors, and we have highlighted about 5 of them. And the most prominent one, obviously, will be Timing Hub, who has just raised a huge Series C round. While Timing Hub has positioned itself as a lender and value chain player, but it's also a known fact that they will take on credit risk as well as being very heavy in their assets. While the other competitors echo our proposition with different shapes by using predictive components and quantifying farmers' behavior. Aggregate's business model is to provide a software as a service, or SaaS, by integrating existing lenders into a community. Thereby, we eliminate the need for Aggregate to become a lender ourselves and sidestep localized regulation that financial institutions are confined to. Aggregate then becomes an asset-light setup, unconstrained by geographical boundaries or even crop type. Next, please. And this is how we will make our money. Aggregate will help the lenders do their job so that the farmers can do theirs. Typically, a rice farmer will need about $500 for 1 hectare every 6 months. We will charge the lenders based on the access to the pre-appraised list and also successful payment of loan. Because of the monitoring services and the feedback loop each season, we expect the lenders to continue to engage us to provide rating services. And for transaction with third party via the marketplace, we will charge the vendors 3%. Every 6 months, every hectare of rice field, Aggregate's earning potential from each farmer is about $20.50. So while most of the platforms, next slide please, while most of the platforms are built with a top-down approach, putting tech before the users, and AI also require a lot of quantity of accurate and clean data to be trained. Aggregate, on the other hand, with Golden Sunland, already has existing clean data to speed up the training process of the AI, as well as a relevant pool of users with immediate needs. There are 3 core strategies to how we will scale this business. First, we'll start off with the 600 farmers that Golden Sunland have partnered with over the past 2.5 years. And in addition, we have existing multi-sector partners willing to share data with us. Therefore, upon launch, Aggregate would already have gained recognition from reputable third parties, which will lend credit, pun intended, to our pitch to development funds. Lastly, we will use tried and tested mechanisms to onboard the farmers for as low as $1 per farmer. With this, we are confident to scale out faster than competitors within the next 2 years. And next slide, please. And the next 12 months really is to get us to a minimal viable product stage with about 8,000 farmers on board before the actual product launch at the seed round. We will continue our conversation with development banks and lenders such as ADB to onboard Aggregate as a credit assessment tool to support their development lending mandates. We estimate the company to break even when we have about 20,000 farmers on the platform. Next slide, please. So I will personally lead this team, and together with Joshua and Phoebe. Aggregate is also advised by Professor Paul Teng, a known figure in ASEAN for his contribution to agriculture development. And we also have Jinju of Garuda and Daryl of HydraX on the advisory team, both reputable in their respective fields. In summary, Aggregate Solutions has 8 unique propositions. Golden Sunland, we have spent 5 years on the ground. We know the farmers well, and we know the pain points. The accumulated wisdom that Aggregate will transcend beyond geographical boundaries and one day take on other crops as well. Thank you for your time. We are happy to share that we are fully funded for the first year, and we will be raising for the seed round in 6 months' time. So do contact us if you'd like to stay updated, or if you simply like to order some rice. All right. I'm happy to take some questions. Otherwise, have a rice day. I'm done.
We start with Eugene, and then Ajay, and then followed by Nitza.
Well, thanks, David, for the interesting presentation. My question will be, what is the secret sauce in your business model? Is it the algorithm that helps to accurately profile your farmers so that you can be able to match the so-called interest rates with their risk profile?
I think, hi Eugene, thank you for your question. So the secret sauce in this, from our research based on existing competitors, as I mentioned, most of the current smallholder lendings are largely based on standard know your client procedures, KYC, and also historic performance. We are adding the predictive component, and that is supported by crop modeling modules that the technology is already out there. But really the methodology that differentiates us from the rest of the competitor is the ability to quantify behaviors. So why is this important? Because if we consistently measure the credit worthiness of farmers just by looking at the end result, we will reach a point where some of the farmers simply will not qualify for any loan, because while agriculture is very uncertain, but what is certain is climate change is going to make farmers' life even harder. So the behavioral component allows us to differentiate good farmers from bad farmers. So I would say the secret sauce and the novel idea that we think really stands out among the competitors is the fact that we can quantify behavior throughout the season.
If I could just follow up with another question. In the longer term,
Sure.
Do you see aggregation in this industry? Because if you look at this model, it's a bit like your credit bureau model, where you can't afford to have too many of these bureaus running around, right? But the bureau could serve different banks or different financial institutions. Whereas if you have too many of these competitors, like you mentioned in that slide, if we have proliferation of these, then it's not going to work out if your farmers can go around asking for a different type of funding. How do you see this industry evolving in the next 5-10 years? Is there some consolidation that you're expecting, or you think that there's still market to expand?
Keith, do you mind showing the summary page, please? So we didn't go into details just now, but for example, point 7, we highlighted market positioning as a unique selling proposition because, as you mentioned just now, there are quite a number of players in the market at the moment. But we realize generally these players are operating at a very localized level. So those who are in Indonesia will be working with a localized bank. Our market position is to go straight to the source of funds. So there are a couple of big players who are funding rural development and agriculture. So for example, rural development funds and agriculture funds consist of about 10 to 12% of ADB's annual lending. There is a mandate to lend more money to the agriculture sector because the smallholder farmers essentially form our food system. But the issues that most of these development funds face is when they issue the money to the localized bank are finding it very difficult to issue the money to the farmers. So our approach is to go straight to the likes of ADB and offer them our credit assessment system, which was why I cited S&P and Moody's. They are known credit assessment system, so that when ADB say issue the cash and the money to a bank in Indonesia or Thailand, together this system will go with it. So this system is really to help the financial institutions better understand the rest, understand the client that they're lending to. So we're going straight to the source of fund rather than going for a localized solution.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Hey, David. Thanks a lot for sharing. Really interesting business you're building. So I'll preface this by saying that we're investors in Recult, and so just want to put that out there before I ask my question. But when it comes down to any kind of farmer-facing solution, especially when it requires farmer input. One of the things that we love to consider is, one of the first two things you mentioned or in the video was, the incentivization we give, or the incentives we give to the farmers to get them to input their data. And I'd love to understand what some of those incentives look like, obviously beyond the potential for financing, if there are any. And then the second question I have is around, how we ensure the accuracy of the information that's inputted, right? Because, of course, one of the concerns could be falsification of the data, and how we ensure that it's accurate down to the farm level.
So there are two questions over there. So first is onboarding, and after that, continuous engagement. So for onboarding, Recall does their project in Pakistan and Thailand, I believe. And for most of the developing nations, onboarding farmers, there's actually simple mechanisms. So you can incentivize them by transferring phone credits, for example. So when you onboard the farmers, you will naturally ask for either their email or their phone number. And in these places, once they've provided you with basic data, you could transfer some phone credit to them. So there's the onboarding stage. The second part, again, Keith, can we go back to the summary? I think we can just stay there. So first of all, because Golden Sunland is very rice specific, and we decided to start with rice first because we believe we can provide the farmers with more value. And in this case, the sustainability index and the sustainability score will add on 2 additional value to our interaction with the farmers. So first of all, Sustainable Rice Platform is a recognized label by UN Environmental Program in 2020. And the SRP performance indicator is actually the first set of information that we intend to collect from the farmers. So essentially what we are trying to do is we are trying to appraise the farmers based on a sustainability score. And in return, Aggregate will then have a heat map of where the sustainable farmers are. And we could potentially link them to the buyers of sustainable rice, such as Mars, Olam, and a couple of other European companies. So other than just gaining them access to finance, there's also a potential to link them to the market. And the second thing that I'll just talk about very briefly, part of the SRP performance indicator also look at water management, which will eventually lead to methane emission and also carbon credit generation. So right now we are checking with the authority to see whether they would recognize a remote sensing mechanism to validate carbon credit generation. On your last question about accuracy of the data, super valid. In the first 1 year at least, there is no running away from having a ground team to validate ground truth data. So that's where Golden Sunland comes into place. We are very, very much on the ground. And we need the ground truth data, the crop modeling data, and the remote sensing data to eventually merge, which is something you can see in our milestone. We have 3 different data. Ultimately, they will merge before the final product can be achieved. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you.
Nidza, your question?
So Keith, next time I will be the first or the second to ask because my colleague took my 2 questions. But out of curiosity, I would like to ask David, what is the 8 standing for in Aggregate?
We have exactly 8 unique selling propositions. So which is why I asked Keith to stay in this page. And also, there are a lot of good names that are being taken from startups. So here we are. Aggregate is here to aggregate.
Yeah, Aggregate is a great name. Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting and enthusiastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Since we're out of time, we'll not be taking any questions from the audience. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Janice. And Janice is from Verdant Blooms.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janice. Nice to meet you. So at this point, I just wanted to have everyone pull out your chat and just, if you're someone who has started growing during the last circuit breaker or in other countries, they would have called it a lockdown, just type me in the chat. Just wanted to see what that's like. Okay, I see a couple of you, me. Okay, look, a lot of you did that. So that's me as well. That's exactly how I started with urban farming. And at the beginning, I think it was really quite a hard journey. There were a lot of questions. You know, you go online and you would see all these different kinds of soil that you can get, fertilizers. How much water do you put in? And, you know, I have my husband asking me, why is that turning yellow? What's this bug? Plenty of questions. And if you were like me, you would also have struggled at the beginning, wondering what exactly to do. But during my journey, I began to realize that the art of growing plants is actually a science. No guesswork here. So this really inspired me to start Verdant Blooms. And it's a company that aims to take the guesswork out of farming by using AI optimization. So now we all know, next slide, please. We all know that indoor farming has high running costs, while outdoor farms have lower yields. But the biggest problem of all that all farms share is actually the shortage of trained manpower. And it's simply just not sustainable to fully rely on humans to diagnose and fix every single farming problem that we have. Next, please. So our solution to this is ChronoGrow. It is the lowest power consuming horticulture light in the market, and it comes complete with a camera and environmental sensors. How does it work? So we all know also that plants have an optimal DLI, or daily light integral. That's the perfect amount of power required for the fastest growth. But the sun isn't always reliable, and hence supplemental light is required. But the problem is, how do we accurately determine the amount of supplemental light that we need to put in? So that's where ChronoGrow comes in. Our camera collects the visual data on plant growth and environmental light. It then feeds this data to our AI program, and it processes the exact optimal amount of supplemental light to give the plant. So this entire continuous optimization loop results in faster growth and lower running costs for the farmers. So next. So I'm going to show you a visual representation of this optimization taking place. In red here, you see the daylight par, and it's peaking at noon. And in black, this is ChronoGrow supplementary par. And what you see here is it's got a inverse relationship. And the goal that we are trying to maintain is an optimal DLI, even with fluctuating daylight for the most efficient plant growth. In gray here, you see your typical commercial LED grow lights par. It's at a constant level. And because of that, it's never going to be able to achieve the kind of cost savings that ChronoGrow can. So an essential part of this optimization process is actually the deep learning. So I'm going to tell you about how we do this. We first train the software to isolate the leaf canopy area from images collected from the camera. So that's what you're seeing on the bottom left. Then we also collect the data on ambient par, humidity, and temperature. So these features are processed by our neural network to optimize the best conditions for the plant. As a start, we only focus on optimizing the lighting simply because of the sheer costs that are involved. But in future, this same data that we have collected can be applied to all sorts of things. So you're talking about disease identification, pest detection. The list is really quite endless. So why should we start now? So right now, in the past couple of years, there have been quantum leaps in the advancement of deep learning and camera hardware. These are both essential components in ChronoGrow. Also, the labor shortage is really just being further worsened by COVID-19. It's not helping the situation. And most importantly, the global indoor farming market is growing at a rapid rate of 9.4%. This represents to us a growing number of farms that are continuously going to be under pressure to reduce their running costs. So currently, there are already many smart LED light producers in the market. And also plenty of farmers who are probably happy to stay status quo with their low-cost LED lights. So you might be wondering, how will Verdant Blooms compete? Our ChronoGrow itself, just the lights, has a proprietary frequency modulation algorithm, which can save up to 30% of power consumption. And we are talking about just the lights alone. So that's even before we add in the cost savings from the AI optimization. In addition, we are also positioning ourselves to be a modular add-on to existing light technologies. So by doing this, we can actually help existing lights technologies to reduce their power consumption and increase yield. Just a quick snapshot of the market. It's large at this point, 1.41 billion last year, and growing at 22.55%. It's really a huge market and plenty of opportunities for ChronoGrow to plug into. So to enter the market, what we'll be doing is to offer ChronoGrow to farmers on free trials. So this is really to aid in rapid data collection to train our AI. And we will then offer ChronoGrow on a one-time installation fee and a monthly subscription in order to unlock the advisory and insights from the AI. So finally, let me just introduce our management team. So that's myself, Janice. In the last 15 years, I founded 3 restaurants, a catering marketplace, and I've just been really deeply interested in how to move the farm closer to the table. And with Verdant Blooms, I found a solution to optimize food at the farm itself. So that's really exciting for me. And as for Sheng, our tech lead, he's also incredibly passionate about farming. And he's really excited now to be using his wealth of experience in programming to make farming way more efficient. So at this point, I'd just like to add that we are not currently ready to fundraise, but if you're interested, please contact me. My number is over there, and I'll reach out to you when you're ready. So with that, thank you for listening. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Trendlines as well, because without them, we would not have been able to develop our first prototype. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. And I think since Nidza asked, Nidza, why don't you have the first question?
Don't take me so seriously.
Be careful what you ask for.
Okay, thank you anyway. Janice, thank you very much. It was really very interesting to hear your pitch. I would wonder what would be your IP strategy for your technology that you are offering.
Right. So as you know, my background is definitely not in hardware or software. So this is something that I was hoping to get a lot of guidance from Trendlines as well. I think for us, we wanted to really explore how to protect our algorithm, which is probably what I would call our secret sauce at this point. And also the AI that we are developing. That's something that is proprietary and we'll need to figure out how to protect. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Just a quick reminder to the audience, you can also type in some of your questions into the Q&A session, okay? So that I can ask the questions to Janice. Eugene, over to you.
Thanks, Jenny. I think it's a fascinating concept, and I can hear your passion as you present. My question would be, do you need to develop different libraries for different plants? As you know, because each plant is going to have different characteristics and different photosynthesis process. And you do, yes. How do you quickly build up that library? Because if you're going to roll it out, I suppose there are different climates for different type of plants and they're all going to respond differently.
Yes, that's true. So I think the idea here is actually, Keith, can you go back to the deep learning slide? Okay, so you are right to say that for different plants, there are different conditions that are required. So a lot of such research has already been done and it's already been documented. The idea here is that in order for us to teach the neural network and our algorithms to figure out what to do in all these different conditions, we do need to feed a lot of data into it. Yeah, so the training is required, and for that to be done, I think the key for us is really to do those free trials and for us to get as much data from the farmers as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Janice, thanks a lot for sharing with us. I have a couple of questions. So I appreciate the focus on cost saving, right? Because when we evaluate companies, we love to think about how much more money are you putting in the pocket of your customer? And I think it's especially true in the agri space, where you have the pickiest customers. Maybe just for my own edification and context, I'd love to understand when you mentioned a 30% cost saving on lights and on the electricity cost, relative to the overall cost structure that a farmer might experience. I'm just curious what that 30% will be in the overall stack.
Okay. So currently, the stats that we found state that the indoor farms that are running on artificial lights only, the kind of cost that they're incurring is about 14 times that of an outdoor farm that's using natural sunlight. So for them to actually have a 30% reduction, that's a huge amount. Huge amount, right. Yeah. So going off that same point, because it seems like just the cost saving on the lights themselves is a rather compelling value creation. On the other hand, I'd love to understand if you have any data points around how much the optimization algorithms with regards to lighting help them grow, or to Eugene's point, how much the photosynthesis process is optimized or improved or sped up. Yeah. Okay. Keith, yeah, thank you. He knows all my slides about pretty well. So there are a couple of things that are happening under the hood. So the first is the circadian rhythm engineering. So the idea here is we are not just synchronizing our lights to the photosynthetic processes, which I'll show you on a different slide later. But we're also extending the daylight hours. And this is especially useful for certain crops that are obviously really important to us, such as your staples like rice, your corn, your oats. These have really long daylight cycles, and you do need to do this in some form for you to maximize your yield. And then, Keith, if I can go to the other slide. Yeah, thank you. So this is pretty much our secret sauce, I would say, the frequency modulation algorithm. So we are, I mean, in a very layman term, what is happening is, say at noon when the sunlight is extremely intense, you've got photons basically being shot at the plant, and the plant is trying to protect itself because it just cannot take more than the first photon that's already been used during the photosynthetic reaction, right? So what we are doing with this light is we have synchronized it to PS1 and PS2. We are not giving the plant any more than is necessary based on what we already know is the photosynthetic rate. So in a sense, this is as efficient as it gets to matching what the plant needs. Got it. Okay. Did I answer your question there? You did. I'll let Keith and his team answer some of the questions from the group. I'll follow up with you after to dive in a bit more. Okay, sounds good.
So Janice, I have a question from the audience. They're asking about your technical specifications of the light, and are the lights more expensive or are they cheaper than current lights currently available in the market?
Okay, that's a good question, and I'm guessing it's someone who's probably farming. Maybe we can go to the specs slide. Okay, so this is what we're looking at the moment. And you can see all the power consumption specs, luminous efficiency, the lumens, power output, and so on. And I think the numbers speak for itself over here. In terms of cost, I don't think we are at the right point to answer that question because we have not gone into manufacturing of the lights. And to be honest, this is not really the strategy that we're taking. The idea here is that we want to make use of our secret sauce, which is the algorithm, and also our AI to be sort of a complementary product to existing lights. So as a start, of course, we will be selling the lights as well, but we'll be selling it as a complete unit with the AI. Point being, we need to collect the data in order to train our AI. So I think the question about how much would the light alone cost is maybe not so relevant to us at this point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Janice. I think you have one more question, so maybe you can type it you can answer Sarai in the Q&A section itself. But we'd like to move on because we just want to make sure that everybody has the fair amount of time to speak. So the next company that I would like to call upon is Hadas to talk about nut culture. Hadas, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adas. I'm the founder of Nut Culture, and I'm here to share our vision and our passion for this company. So let's start. Kit? Okay. Cowspiracy, seaspiracy, songspiracy. I'm sure all of you heard or seen all of the latest trending movies about sustainability and about all the issues involved in that. So we all know it. The world is going to hell. We are over farming, using way too much resources, and getting heart attacks from all of that cholesterol. But boy, doesn't that piece of cheese taste good? If there could only be an alternative. So as I went vegan a few years ago, I found out actually there are alternatives out there. They definitely look like cheese, but as I started reading the labels, I realized these are made mostly from starch and oil, has no nutritional value, and they taste really, really bad. Sorry. Aren't we missing the point? So then I thought to myself, how about I just try and do it myself? So I did. For the next 2 years, I tested and tried dozens of different formulations and processes in order to reach a high quality product that doesn't only taste good, but it also has the potential to maximize all of the nutritional value that I'm trying to reach. So at the moment, our products are made from organic cashew nuts, which are rich in fat, in oil, which are rich in healthy fats, in fiber, and of course in protein. It's also fermented, so it's healthy for your gut, which means you can have all of the indulgence and none of the guilt. Next slide, please. Okay. So I'm sure all of you are aware the plant-based food market is booming right now. It's expected to reach $25 billion in the next 4 years alone. Out of that, 20% of this market is only for plant-based cheese, which is just our starting point. It's a $1 billion opportunity in the APAC region alone. Imagine what the future holds. It's nuts. So since formulating our product and launching it in 2019, we've seen a growth of 234% in our sales with the help of our amazing partners who really, really believe in what we're trying to do. So they're selling it in their retail stores, they're using it in their menus, online and offline. One media feature after another one. Turns out that you can become famous if you are really, really passionate about your vegan cheese. But let's get back to business. Okay, so in the next few years, we're hoping to expand our products, our offerings to cream cheese, fermented butter, and pasta, just to name a few, which will show a growth of 10x in our sales for this business. Once we establish our brand here in Singapore, in the next few years, we're hoping to branch out to other APAC countries as well as the Middle East. So this is the story of an enthusiastic foodie who's gone vegan, gone mad scientist, then gone entrepreneur. And now I'm joined by Elias, who comes from a background in law, then joined his family business in food innovation and ag tech after exiting his previous startups. We definitely know how to make this work. So I hope I gave you a glimpse of the potential of the plant-based food market and our part in it. We're definitely going places, and we are hoping that you would like to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hadas. All right, panelists, over to you. Anyone has the first question?
If you prepared samples for us, right?
We can definitely arrange for samples to be sent. I believe Lisa has some samples with her.
I just had a quick question, Hadas. Thanks a lot for sharing. Really interesting. I'm a big fan of all the products you mentioned myself, but I'm not a huge fan of how I feel after I eat them. So I definitely appreciate where you're coming from with your product. Just a quick question on where you see, a lot of your market coming from. Because our experience just when evaluating companies like yours is that, a lot of the developing markets or emerging markets, especially in Southeast Asia, the population isn't really keen or ready for a solution or for a product like yours. And so it's usually more developed markets that would find this more attractive. Has that been your experience as well?
Okay, so you are right to say that developed markets are bigger markets, but the fact that this market is not fully developed yet is what gives us the opportunity to really dominate it. In the last few months, with the help of Trendlines, we've been working on our marketing strategy, which we think will help us to really get this market share before other big players come into play. We did have some experience of people being curious and why do I even need it? But going into food fairs and letting chefs try and letting restaurant owners try, we're getting a lot of good response. And actually, even though this market is not fully aware of why they need this product, about 80% of Southeast Asians are lactose intolerant in different levels. So when you do mention it to them, they say, oh, you're actually right. I might be, like you just said yourself. I was lactose intolerant myself and I never realized until I went. So
yeah, I just tell myself I'm not when I may or may not be.
I did the same thing.
All right, thanks a lot, Hadas. Appreciate it.
So Hadas, a quick question for you. If you had the next dollar to invest in, which area will you be doing it? Would it be in the recipe or is it in the marketing? Or which other areas you think it's most pertinent for your business right now?
So at the moment, we are actually fundraising, and about 35% of what we're raising is going to be spent on marketing. We don't feel that we need to educate the people, but we feel that we need to intrigue them just enough so they can want to try, and once they buy it once or they try it at one of our restaurant partners, they will like it and then they become customers. In terms of the development of the product itself, the recipe is not really the issue. We are definitely working on the texture and the consistency of the product. So this machinery will also cost a lot of money. And that's about 20% of our spend for this fundraising.
Mm-hmm. My other question is, at which point in the economies of scale game, do you think your product will be reasonably price competitive? Right. So if you ask consumers around, I talk to my friends, I think people are willing to pay for such niche products. But I think the sensing is they will not pay more than, say, 30-40% above whatever is available in the market. When do you think you can reasonably reach that point in terms of your scaling up? At what volumes?
Okay, so again, it depends to what you're comparing. If you're comparing my cheese with the typical processed type of cheese, of course, it's expensive. It's $15 for 140
Yeah, no, let's do gourmet cheese, right? We do gourmet cheese, the premium one.
Exactly. So if I compare it to premium, it's about the same price. So you don't really pay.
Oh, really?
You don't really pay more than what you would pay for another premium artisanal cheese.
Already. So you're already hitting that price point.
Yeah, of course. And the next few products that we're working on, it is part of our goal to really reduce the price to be a little bit more mass market, still to keep the high quality of the product is really important for me because I think that's my main differentiation from most of the products out there. If I will just change my ingredients and have it made with starch and oil and just take the easy route that everybody else is taking, then there's no difference. It's still bad for you. It doesn't really solve the consumer problem.
Hadas, hi, thank you for your presentation and sharing with us. different or competition that will be coming, it will be in the near future, not with other vegan cheese, but when we will face the ability of cow-free milk, industry where they can use, fresh milk to produce the cheese without all the hurdles, the environmental impact. And I believe that you will have to deal with that as well, because as a vegetarian, I can tell you that I didn't test anything that is not with after test. I mean, all the vegan cheeses, all the Beyond, all the they have some after test. It's not like to have a real cheese. So the competition will come and will come soon from a different direction, and you should be ready for that.
I am ready for that. I am aware of the development in that area. I don't think that I need to place myself from a place of, oh, that's an alternative to cheese, even though that's the way people call it. People will call it cheese alternative. I think it's a good enough product on its own. And if I do my job right in getting more recipes right and getting the marketing right, I will have my market share from that, and I will get my customers loyal to me and to my products because they like them, not because it's called cheese or not cheese. And the other thing is also that these products that you're describing, it will still be made of milk. So it will still have all the health impacts of milk. So it will be more sustainable, but it will still be milk.
And it's good.
Some will argue differently.
At least it's tasty.
Yeah. So thank you, Nita. Hadas, I have two questions from the audience. One, of course, is the question everybody is interested in. How and where can we buy your cheese from?
Okay, maybe you can get back to the other slide where I show my partners, or you can go to my website directly. It's nutculture.com, and all of our retailers and wholesalers are there. Okay, so these we can buy this off the shelf from these shops. Is that what you're saying? No, because this slide also includes the restaurant. They don't retail the product; they only use it in their menu. So maybe the best solution for that would just be go directly to my website and then get it from there. Okay, and secondly, the question that's being asked is this just purely a formula that you are doing, or is there certain processes that are proprietary to you? It is something that we're working on because right now it is quite small scale. So once we start, it is something that we've been working on in the last 6 months to redesign our process, not only to make it proprietary to us, but also to be able to scale it and to make it even better than it is right now in terms of texture. So it will be proprietary. At the moment, it's still something that we're researching and trying to solve. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. The next company that I'd like to call upon is Microvision. Shiva, who is currently the CEO, will be presenting about the company. Shiva, please.
Hi all, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Keith. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are very proud to be part of this Accelerator program, thanks to Trendlines AFIC. We've really enjoyed and learned a lot. And thanks to all the attendees for joining this afternoon and the guests as well. So we are Mycovation. We are Asia's first, probably the world's first configurable fungi platform to supply inputs to the food processing industries. Our specialty is that we leverage on the power of fungi, probably the most versatile organism on the planet, to deliver vegan, nature-inspired, minimally processed and affordable ingredients. Next slide, please. My name is Shiva Susarla. I'm the CEO of Mycovation. And as you know, it probably means really doing nothing. We have some great scientists in our team, Dr. Yashaswini, Dr. Yong Singh. We have We are part of the Renergy Venture Studio, and we get the benefit of the full team on Renergy. They're all in the attendee list right now, supporting me and trying to see if I make any mistakes during today's presentation. Next slide, please. Last year, we went to consumers in Singapore and in India, and we asked them, what is it that you think about current plant-based and cellular agriculture output options, right? 60% of the people we spoke to said, hey, they're not affordable. 42% of consumers said, hey, we buy the burgers from the big 2-3 brands that are globally famous, but we question how many additives have gone into it. Is it really nutritious? Others are saying, hey, you're replacing one beast with another equally unsustainable, ecologically beast. Does it really solve the problem? And of course, from a processing perspective, I've already mentioned it. Going back to nutrition and health, how much processing is going into these alternatives to deliver sensory and functional experiences that are similar to the conventional products? We then took this feedback to understand what the food industry is doing to address them. And we realized that there are very limited options, limited solutions out there. What we have is plant-based processed products that are really formulations that have a lot of masking agents, texturizing agents that are lab-derived. And consumers are concerned about those. They're still pretty affordable. The cheapest plant-based product is still more expensive than the most expensive grass-fed beef, for example, right? And there's still some challenges in their ability to deliver functional and sensory experiences that they are claiming to be analogous to, the conventional food products that are claiming to be analogous, right? And that doesn't really solve the consumer problem. So crystallizing all this insight and information, we have come up with Mycovation. So who's Mycovation? We are the world's first bespoke mycelium products company. We custom ferment input products based on the client's need for functionality, for fortification, for flavor and texture. Imagine you're a client, a food industry client, and you come to Mycovation and you say, hey, you want a flour that has a grainy texture, that has orange color and high in vitamins and secondary metabolites, and has a slightly tangy flavor. Right now, you can't get this product in the market. No one's making it for you, especially, right? But you can come to Mycovation and place your order. On the right, you have, of the slide, you can see our proprietary predictive system that takes all the client inputs, processes it, and hits our proprietary 3C stack that you see on the left. What the algorithm does is basically it first hits our configure component of our proprietary stack. The configure component refers to our library of strains, fungal strains, and substrate mixes, and the unique combination of those that we have as our core knowledge base. The predictive algorithm then chooses the right configuration of strains, substrates, hits the construct module of the platform, chooses the right slate, the right technology from our slate of fermentation technologies, and then produces a product that the client is asking for. So a predictive algorithm that picks the right protocol from our 3C stack to deliver the perfect fungi-based ingredient for our clients. We've taken our predictive system, we've taken our 3C platform, and we are offering 3 product categories right now: mix, mimic, and maximize. Through mix, we are actually delivering great ingredients from mycelium to as emulsifier, texturing agents, masking agents, maybe even a simple ingredient like fortified flour, functional ingredients in beverages, et cetera, et cetera. In the mimic category, we are providing inputs that can actually deliver great analogs to current conventional protein sources. So we can offer both a great solution for texturized protein products, but we also have a great solution we are working on for whole cut meat analogs as well. In the maximized product category, we are trying to supply active ingredients, functional ingredients for growth media and cellular agriculture technologies. We're also trying to serve the nutraceutical sector and so on, right? This product portfolio could even expand into the future. Where do we see ourselves in this current landscape of mycelium startups? Mycelium is hot right now. At last, Mycovation, a bunch of these amazing companies have got big funding recently. We differentiate ourselves along these attributes that you see on the left. We are using gourmet strains. That's a very important differentiating factor. You have some businesses in the mycelium space who say, hey, we have a proprietary strain that no one else has. We are working with gourmet strains, what are classified as grass under the US FDA. We work with grass strains, and we are actually combining a unique process and a predictive algorithm that combines the right strains with the right combination of substrates and the right technology. So our knowledge is in how we bring it all together, but you have other startups who are focusing on the process or the strain or different forms, et cetera, et cetera. So again, just going back to the 3C platform that I described, we've made significant progress in just the last 6 months. We've identified 17 edible strains of mycelium, again, all classified as grass. We've optimized our protocols for 2 of these strains, along with a combination of commonly available substrates to deliver some great forms. We have some degree of mastery already on 2 of the 4 technologies in our slate, solid state fermentation and submerged fermentation. We have the ability to deliver different forms already. We can either deliver a powder flour form, or we also have what we call a vertical slab, where the mycelium puffs up to deliver whole cut and scaffold type of solutions for our clients. We're also trying our hand out, and it's fitting that we follow nut culture. We're also trying to develop our own internal products. We're trying to develop a cheese analog, and maybe this can help nut cultures mask their off notes, right? But jokes apart, we are trying out our own cheese formulation. We have a flour that could be a great fortified ingredient for the bakery industry. We're also trying to harvest interesting byproducts out of those out of the flour as well. We have a fiber component that we're trying to extract. We have some carbohydrate component as well that could be very valuable in the marketplace. So all this we've done in the last 6 months. I'm almost at the end of my 5 minutes, so I'll close by saying that we need a lot of help. We are a young startup. So for people in the attendance list and for all the experts on the panel, please connect us to global ingredient companies, Asian ingredient companies, help us get more and more validation and expand our product portfolio, and help us deepen our database of strains and substrates. Thank you so much. I would love to take your questions and tell you more about the work we do.
Thanks, Shiva. Hi, Eugene, can we start with you? Do you have your first question?
I appreciate that, Shiva. Very interesting concept. Huh? It's almost like 3D printing analogous to the... and my question would be, your target audience, would it be end consumers or would it be your restaurants and your businesses types that would then use your product for other refinements?
Yeah, so we are a B2B focused business, Eugene. Thanks for the question. So we are trying to work with food ingredient companies, ADM, Kerry's, Kraft Foods, and so on. We are trying to work with cellular agriculture companies. We want to work with the protein companies who are delivering alternative protein products for their clients. So I guess we are a B2B2C in that sense. We want to understand the end consumer deeply to be able to give better solutions to our B2B clients.
One more question. Just for a reasonably big client, say a restaurant chain in Singapore that puts an order with you, what is the turnaround time to deliver your products? So, how long does it take to grow, and what do you need to do?
So we are optimizing our strains. So I spoke about how we are creating the database of strains. At this point, Eugene, we are working with strains that typically have a 10 to 12 day cycle. So based on how much capacity we have in our growth chambers, I would say the fastest we can turn around is 10 to 12 days for a completely bespoke order. If we have inventory, obviously 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Thanks, Shiva.
Yeah. Keith, can I take the question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Shiva. Thank you for the presentation. As your product, it will be an add-on for existing product or for existing industry. Regarding the characteristic of the mycelium, the tailor-made that you will produce, how difficult or complicated is to integrate it to existing material products from different chemical characteristics like solubility and other factor that you have to measure and develop in order for that to be part of the whole product?
So thanks for the question, Dr. Nidza. Again, I have to be careful. I'm talking to a scientist as a non-scientist. So I have to be careful with what I say. And probably my scientist colleagues can answer this question better. But here's the thing. For some products, it's easy. For example, if you're talking about a fortified flour product used in a baking use case, it's relatively straightforward. But for example, if we have to use it in a functional beverage, we'll have to extract it and convert it into liquid form, depending on what functional ingredients our clients are looking for. So it's a combination. For some of the use cases, we believe it's going to be relatively straightforward. For other use cases, it may be slightly more tricky. We may have to actually, in the third component of our micro-platform stack, we may have to learn how to actually engage in better processing techniques to be able to deliver the right form, whether it's solubility, whether it's porosity, whether it's isolating specific active ingredients for certain clients, whether it's for clients who want more fiber, less fiber, and so on. We hope to be able to deliver bespoke formats that they need. But we'll need a little bit more time to get to that level for sure.
Thank you.
Hey, Shiva, thanks a lot for sharing. Really interesting business. And I think the mycelium space is one that's quite interesting. Where would you say your sweet spot is? Because we're hearing a couple of things around food and beverage, around inputs for other product development. What would you say the company's sweet spot is? And then along those same lines, or on a similar line, the other question I have is, in food and beverage applications, will there be a regulatory or governmental process that we'll have to go through to be served to consumers?
Fantastic questions, both. I'll take the second question first, if that's okay with you, Ajay.
Sure.
We are using grass strains, fungal strains that are classified as generally regarded as safe to eat by the US FDA. Okay. So we will not, to the best of our knowledge, will not need additional regulatory approval. We were very focused on therefore using strains that are already considered gourmet. If, for example, you have a proprietary fungal strain that you've discovered that is not under the grass, then you'll have to go through an extra regulatory approval to be able to serve to customers.
Got it.
But we will not have that problem. Our immediate sweet spot is one, we already have a flour ingredient, and we see that as being very valuable in the baking industry and the confectionery industry. So that's our immediate low-hanging fruit that we believe we can capture. The other area where we are very close to, I think, commercialization is in delivering solutions for protein analogs, Ajay. So one, it could be both for a texturized protein product, but it could also be for a whole cut solution. We are working on our vertical foam product that could actually deliver a fantastic whole cut experience for our clients. So I would say these are where we are very, very close to commercialization. But of course, we've started trials with, for example, some cellular media companies on the growth media enhancers and so on. That will take a little more time.
Got it. Thanks a lot, Shiva.
All right, Shiva, we have some questions from the audience. So the question here is, with the bespoke mixes and strains, if they're made through the platform, is it possible for it to exclusively be available only to that client?
Well, I mean, we haven't thought about that, but we are businessmen. If the check is big enough, we can make it exclusive, right? If, for example, it's a solution versus a SaaS product type of analogy, right? It's SaaS is cheaper because the same solution is being used by 30 people, the costs are split. If there's someone willing to pay us for an exclusive output, we would love to take that as well. So we are very open.
The next question is about the nutritional profile of your products. Do you have a comparison between, let's say, protein and fiber as compared to normal mushrooms or normal mycelium currently grown?
Yeah, so we'll probably be very similar to current mycelium and mushroom products with some enhancements given our process. But I guess the right way for us to look at it is, hey, if we are benchmarking ourselves against a protein product, where are we in the protein hierarchy, right? So when we do our liquid fermentation, for example, we are in the 22 to 26% type of protein content. When we do our solid state fermentation, and where we combine our substrates as well, we are actually hitting very, very high levels of protein, 55, 60% even, depending on what substrate we use. So that's how we benchmark. Fiber content seems to be high. We haven't exactly measured it, but it definitely is high.
Okay, and the substrate is generally made out of current waste. Is it an upcycling model, or is this something that you have to buy specifically for use as a substrate?
So we are a circular economy business, Keith, like you know, and our goal is to use as many feedstock streams as possible that are considered waste. Doesn't mean they're poor quality, it's just that the use cases are not powerful enough for them. We've started working with, for example, husks of lentils and grains. And I think we can definitely work with other industrial streams as well. Spent grain is from breweries is awesome. We're also thinking about sugarcane, sugar mill feedstock streams. We're thinking about palm kernel, palm oil byproducts in Indonesia and Malaysia. So we are very open.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions that we have. And now as we move on to the last company, and definitely not the least, I would like to invite Wilson. Wilson, could you turn on your screen and introduce to us Agrifood, please?
Hello.
Hi, Wilson. Is your camera on?
I cannot. It's your host that is disabled it.
Oh no. Let me find it for you. I'm so sorry. Can you start the video now?
Yeah, there we go.
All right, thank you very much.
Can you see me right now?
Yeah.
All right. Is my voice okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So shall we begin?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. So I'm Wilson from AFIC. AFIC is trying to transform agriculture with crop intelligence. We are solving two key problems in the agriculture. First, poor crop yield, and second, poor sustainability. First, plantations are not optimizing their crop yield, namely because of poor information flow across the entire supply chain. Data is collected manually. Billions of dollars are being wasted from not knowing when to spray, when to harvest, and when to deliver. And secondly, because of the poor crop yield, they are engaging in unsustainable farming methods to try to bolster their yield out, using excessive pesticides, herbicides, and engaging in poor labor practices. We believe the solution to this is precision agriculture, being able to direct the right resources to optimize the inputs to get the outputs they require. Next. The founding team has been trying to solve this problem for the past 3 years. That include Randy, our CEO and a serial entrepreneur with over 20 years of software engineering experience, myself with accounting and legal background, and Terry, our CTO who has numerous inventions under his belt. Our team has grown from 3 founders to over 200 employees now, spanning across 4 countries. We are spread over 30,000 hectares and map over 300,000 hectares. To put that in perspective, Singapore is only around 70,000 hectares. We serve over 30 clients right now with some of the largest plantations in the world. We are partnered with some of the best regarded companies in the region as well. So AFIC is in the business of digitizing farms and plantations. And we do so by collecting a wide range of data points, from topography to soil moisture, to rainfall, to tracking assets over a very large area. We specialize in large plantations, and we build connectivity in the most remote part of the world. To enable this crop intelligence, we first automate the process of collecting data by using smart sensors. And then we build data infrastructure to transmit this information in absence of GSM 3G, followed by storing, visualizing, analyzing this information for predictive analytics, also to help the managers make better decisions. To deliver performance to our farmers and plantations, we first increase yield by smart sensors for connected plantations, mapping for visual data, and finally execute the solution with precision spraying. We help farmers change what, when, and why they make decisions across the entire life cycle of a crop. This shows where and when we deploy different solutions of our capabilities during the life cycle of the crops. With our solution, we're helping plantations save more than 50% of their current costs through more efficient use of chemicals and manpower. And most importantly, we are increasing plantation yield. We provide more timely actions for them to do targeted spraying, resulting in more yield in a safer environment for everyone. We focus on delivering value to our plantations and farmer customers, but beyond that, we also serve chemical manufacturers, seed producers, financial services who benefit from our crop intelligence so that they can better serve their own customers. This is a $94 billion industry, contributing to more than 15% of emerging economies' GDP. Here are some of the crop types we are involved in, and we are scaling across different crop types and to different parts of Southeast Asia. And in doing so, we are currently raising $3 million to hire more talents, marketing, and deploying these solutions for our customers. With that, I'd like to end my presentation with call for partners. We already partner with some of the most respectable companies in the world, and we are looking for more partners in plantations, FMCG, chemical companies, technology companies, and agriculture financing company. If you're interested, please reach out to us with our contact details here. We are AFIC, and we're here to deliver crop intelligence. Thank you.
Sorry, we'll now take some questions from the panelists. Eugene, would you like to start?
Yeah. Wilson, quick question on your business model and your revenue charging model. Which are the various fee charging models that explored for end consumers? Is it a straightforward upfront fee, or is there some profit sharing? Have you considered those, and which one do you think is best suited in the near term?
As of the moment, we are generating revenue based on per hectare basis. So per hectare under management usually. So based on how many hectares...
the recurrent fee that you charge the farmers.
Correct. So it's based on the number of hectares they have. Yes, then we charge accordingly. The other options, or rather the other part, so you have two parts of it. First is the mapping and the spraying portion is per hectare. And then when it comes to the sensors, it's by per sensors basis. So how many sensors they are deployed? It's indirectly affected by number of hectares they have. Of course, the bigger area, the more sensors you deploy. So in a nutshell, it's still by per hectare basis.
And what do you think are the barriers for farmers to sign up? Because it sounds like it's going to be a if I could use the word sure win, in Singapore we call 包价, because if you put the technology in, you get the savings. What do you think are some of the impediments?
As of the moment, our sweet spot really lies in plantation more than 1,000 hectares and above. So they are of a certain scale and size. 1,000 hectares is not that big. In perspective, a mid-sized one is around 100,000 hectares. A large-scale plantation is around 300,000 hectares. So 1,000 is really relatively very small in the agriculture landscape. That is corporatized. So the key value proposition here really is control systems. Being able to measure and being able to track what is being input into plantation rather than it being a black box. Whatever you throw out and just hope that output comes out as good as they imagine and envisage it's supposed to be. That is really where our solutions shine, being able to shed light into this unknown portion of the operations.
If you don't mind, Wilson, I'll just follow up on that. Thanks again for sharing. I'd love to understand what the visibility that your solution gives your clients really enables them to do that they couldn't do before.
Sure. Do you mind going back the slides to the whole life cycle portion? Sorry, I can't control the slides. So
is it this one?
Before this. No, the one before with the timelines.
Timelines.
Next page. After, yeah, here. So at this portion, it's basically our solutions has been layered, put it as a multiple layer cake that we have provided for our customers at different stage of the life cycle and different maturity of the plantation itself. We provide different solutions. So coming from different points, one of the things that they always start off with is spraying because it's very straightforward. It's something that they have been doing for the past hundreds of years. We just make it better. Then we couple it above with tracking. So the spraying itself gives a big, huge insights by knowing where exactly has been done as compared to something where they rely on manpower. They have no idea if the person actually just threw the chemicals down onto the drain or they actually done the work. So those are very big variables that they have no idea and no control over. And that's where we put in a lot of information.
Got it.
We then enhance that. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, no, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we then enhance that with our area view. So with that, you basically know exactly the geo coordinates of each trees or each crop. So based on that, you're spraying specific based on that, rather than just a random spraying. And then subsequently to measure all this impact using the sensors. Is it sufficiently wet enough? Has the trees been having enough chemicals?
Understood. So, it's fascinating, right? When I look at these, 9 items, it seems like each of them is a massive problem in and of itself, right? Where would you say that, as I asked the previous company, where, Shiva, where is the sweet spot for y'all? Or where would you say that your technology is the most nuanced in all of these respects?
Yeah. So I think right now in the market, you probably heard of drone spraying, mapping for the past 3-5 years already. So technology has matured to a point, but fundamentally the problem with that is the solutions are not connected. So it doesn't come in together to solve the problem of the plantation owners. And that's where our Biota solutions really try to solve. We try to put in the inputs from different kind of drones, different kind of sensors, and being able to map them out so that they know exactly what to deploy at a certain time. So the Biota, pretty much to answer your question, is the backbone of how we provide our solutions. This is essentially a data input systems where the data comes in, they know what's happening, and we're able to advise them subsequently what should they do next.
Got it. Thank you, Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Wilson. Hi, good to have you with us here. From what I can see and understand from your presentation, I see that your work needs high CapEx, drones and other infrastructures. So scaling up probably is an issue. And at the same time, it seems like this technology is designed for large farmers. And Indonesia, where is your focus, there are a lot of smallholders, which I personally prefer not to neglect. So, because they are a very important part of our food producers, as we heard from our first presentation. So you can just address these 2 points in a short.
Sure. You are right. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, around 40% of the output are still by smallholders. So it's a big portion of the production in the whole food supply chain. But unfortunately for us, one of the challenges that we face is they are really below. It's a space where there are no economies of scale. If you look at smallholders in US and Europe, each of them are talking about minimally a few hundred hectares. If of a decent family tradition where they've passed on from many generations, we're talking about a few thousands or tens of thousands of hectares. Whereas in Indonesia, smallholders were talking about 0.1 to 1 hectares per farmer. And that is something that we have not managed to make it economical as of the moment. So what we see is consolidating the industry. The younger generations that are not taking up the farms will start to sell off their farms. And it will start to consolidate to a certain size where technology investment will start to make sense. As of the moment, we do find it quite challenging to provide any solutions for them, namely because they're living day to day. They don't even have enough money for the chemical inputs for this solution. So talking about technology is quite a challenge. Having said that, we have not given up on them. What we are doing right now is we are working with chemical companies like BASF to try and bundle the solutions for them, which means if they were to buy our solutions together with their chemicals, we'll be able to provide crop assurance. In an event where the crop fails, we can guarantee them the next batch of chemicals given to them will be free. So it's indirect financing for these farmers with a data-driven approach.
Okay, Wilson, I think we have one question from the audience. Thank you very much for your question, Nita. So the question from the audience is there a recommendation or a feedback loop from the output of your data that you gathered from your sensors? For example, is there advisory, or is there like a man in the middle to help like process this data and give recommendations and advice to the farms?
Actually, I don't understand the question too much. It sounds like the same thing to me.
Yeah, so I mean, besides collecting the data, do you have advisory? Maybe you can explain a bit more about Biota?
Yeah, sure. So essentially the system is collecting the inputs from different parts of the plantation. For example, we track how much water is in the irrigation system. That will tell us when exactly that we require either flooding or drought. We require to open up the water gates. The system will then be able to automate the process of opening up these water gates. So when you have irrigation, you put against the satellite data, we know exactly how much this water shortage is affecting the plantation. So we are able to quantify the aspect of it, and we're able to predict the yield by the next 6 months, 1 year down the road, how much implication that will be on the production subsequently.
Okay, thank you very much, Wilson. We've come to the end of our presentations. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Nita, AJ, and Eugene. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for really challenging our startups. But before we go, I'd like to invite Mr. Anton Wibowo to give his closing address. Anton, please.
Thank you, Keith. So good day, everyone. Thank you for having joined our 3i Accelerator Demo Day. My name is Anton Wibowo. I'm the CEO of Trendlines AFIC. A big thank you to Keith, who has spearheaded the organization of the Demo Day, and to all the founders and teams that have actively participated in the Accelerator program. And of course, not to forget the supporting partners and mentors. It is really a pleasure to see how the companies have progressed from day one of the program back in March to reach the milestone that they have reached today. We truly cherish this relationship that we have built through this time. Even though today marks the end of the 3-month long program, I believe that this is only really the beginning for many of the founders in their journeys to materialize their ideas to positively impact the agri-food sector. We at Trendlines AFIC will continue to support your endeavors, your efforts in the various ways that we can. And in closing, whether you are an investor, an aspiring entrepreneur from Singapore or overseas, industry players, institutions of higher learning, do contact us. And in Trendlines AFIC, we invite you to take a bite. Thank you.
Thank you very much to one and all. If everyone could just join me in thanking our panelists and all the startups, I really appreciate it. So here are the contact details. If you ever need to get in touch with anyone from Trendlines, investors, please look for Anton. If you're an early stage startup, look for myself. And lastly, Sarai is our international revenue stage deal flow manager. So she's the person that you should contact if you're not based in Singapore or if you're a revenue stage company. With that, we have come to the end. And as always, Trendlines, we are here to create and develop companies that improve the human condition. We are here to make sure that the world's a better place. So do join us, do contact us, and we look forward to having you. Thank you all very, very much.
Can I say something? Can I just take half a second?
Sure.
I want to thank you, Anton and Dr. Nidza, for this amazing program. Trendlines is awesome, and you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. We hope to see you again shortly. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.